Hi, it's Tootie Tagerly coming to you on Tuesday, a Tuesday after the Labor Day long weekend in San Francisco. And I'm chatting to you today about creating intentional spaces of leadership. This is really much on my mind because I've wrapped a 4-day leadership retreat in person for the first time with a group of 10 beautiful women, beautiful heroines this past weekend. And something that's very much on my mind today is how we create these intentional spaces for us to lead, to grow, to learn, to thrive, to flourish. And also, one of the most difficult parts of it is how we transition between some of these very exalted spaces and into a work week. Very much thinking about this because in the US, some of us have had 3-day weekends. And now on a Tuesday morning, it's the transition from that beautiful 3-day weekend space into a 4-day work week, where oftentimes 5 days worth of work needs to be compressed into the 4 days. Um, so it's creating the intentional spaces, especially the transition spaces. So I want to talk about three specific spaces. The first one, as leaders, many of us hold space and create this external space for others. And there's a way to do it very intentionally. If you lead teams, you have particular structures already for this. You have one-on-ones where you are talking with a direct report, and there is very much a structure where perhaps you ask how things are going, perhaps you celebrate some things, perhaps you really go into particular projects, but that is a space that you're holding for others. Perhaps you have bigger spaces as a company CEO. What is the all hands structure going to be? What is that space where you hold safety, but also give information to others out to really help the culture of a company flourish and thrive? And then for me personally, with my co-facilitator Irene, we have just held a very intentional space over Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday that has been designed so that women who came on this heroine's journey retreat we're able to be taken on a journey of an internal journey for how they have been leaders in their past, in their present, dealing with their inner wise voice as well as inner critics together, and then setting a future path for them to go forward and take these learnings back into the real world. So, part of creating external intentional space for others is understanding what is the emotion that you want the others to have when in this space? When they walk away at the end, how do you want them to feel? When they go home later that night to their partner, what do you want them to say and remember about this? Because the reality is, most of us spend all of our time on content. This is the message that I want. This is the knowledge that I want to share with people. This is like the maybe step-by-step agenda of it. And all that is great. We have to do that. But yet there is the additional, the experience of it. Um, and creating intentional spaces of leadership is remembering that both matter. The prep work, the to-do list, the details, the agenda, the slides, but also not losing track of the feeling that you want people to walk away from. So that's a little bit of how to create this external space for others is the first space. The second space, and as leaders, so many of us fail to create this for ourselves because many people I work with are servant leaders. We will give so much of ourselves to others that we fail to do this for ourselves. Round the circle of women that we held this weekend, I was hearing the same stories over and over again. I have never taken 4 days for myself before, away from my husband, away from my children. I've never made this investment of both time and money. I've never said, hey, I need this. I need this, especially after a year and a half of just this intensity and isolation and situation of COVID that we are in. And then for me too, even in the midst of a retreat where I'm holding the space for other people, very deliberately there was built in, here's where I'm going to take space. Because unless I can take 45 minutes to go sit in the sauna, or another 20 minutes to take a nap, or another 30 minutes to simply go for a walk and feel the cool mist and the sunshine on my face. Unless I take that, even in the midst of a very complicated, complex event, I'm not going to be able to make space for others unless I take that for myself. One of my teachers, Rich Litvin, had once said when he puts on an event, he tells other people not to ask him, how are you doing? How are you doing? And one of the things I've experienced this past weekend is it's really interesting to move in between the space of time for yourself and time for other people. And it takes some energy and some holding to do that context switching. And certain people do it better than others. My co-facilitator, Irene, did a fabulous job transitioning from hosting to teaching to simply being and having fun and making a s'more. So in terms of creating intentional space for yourself, recognize what it is that you need. If you're an introvert, like me, because you get energy from this alone time, make sure you create small minutes and space for that. And when I say minutes, it can be as short as 2 to 3 minutes in the bathroom, alone, somewhere in a corner, to make sure to gather yourself. And then it can be longer. It can be longer for periods of 30 minutes, an hour in the midst of an event, or it can be even longer, which is in the course of a month or a year or a weekend. What is the space that you're going to take for yourself? Because when you do that, you will be a better leader. You will be this better servant leader for others at work or for your families or for your friends. And then finally, the third space, the last space I'm going to talk about is this liminal space. I've been fascinated by this notion of liminal space, which is this the spaces in between, the spaces of transitions and the space of the unknown. And I'm going to say liminal space is hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for many hard charging professionals I know who like the clarity of a plan and a to-do list and a sense of this is what happens next. So the only plan that I'm going to give you is that there will be liminal spaces. There will be space in between. There will be space of unknowns. And the way to get through that is to realize that it's not going to last forever, and to plan for how you deal with this. So I'll give you an example. I know after a particular design sprint or a workshop or an exec offsite or a leadership retreat, I know that I need some space to replenish and recover a little bit before going back into the regular rhythms of everyday life. One of the women on the retreat was wise and she had done this before. So what she did is when our retreat ended on Monday, she made sure to continue her solo retreat through Tuesday. And she's not going back to work, I believe, until Wednesday. So she took that extra day to help with the transition. Other people I know who transition from, say, a vacation back into work will make sure that their first day or two doesn't have any meetings. It's the time that you can catch back up on that backlog of emails or issues, or talk to your most trusted chief of staff, your right-hand person, to be like, all right, what do I need to be back up to speed in? It's creating that little buffer in space before you have to start running full tilt. And you can do that before you leave. You might have pre-written emails that you schedule send out. And then finally, because the days will pass and you will get through this liminal space, know that it exists, know that it is hard, and then look for the small celebrations through the day. For me, It's being able to pause and hug my daughter when she comes home from school. It's having the cat, my beautiful, purring, happy cat. And it's those little moments of being present in between that reminds me that the liminal space is hard and we'll get through it and we'll be sure enough back into regular patterns, whether it's holding external space as a leader, finding internal space for yourself, or working through all the in betweens. So that's it for today. A little chat about creating intentional spaces of leadership, and I will see you next week. Bye.